चलो चलो
लाइट्स
लाइट्स ऑन कर दीजिए. चलो चलो.
हे नंदप्रिया, हे नंदप्रिया, हे नंदप्रिया, let's go and inspire everyone to take Srila Prabhupada's books.
Absolutely. Time to distribute the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Let's arrange.
Aha! Such a big temple. So many foreigners. Maybe today we'll catch someone, engage them in some rituals, and get more dakshina.
Hare Krishna. Bhagavad-Gita for you.
Bhagavad-Gita? Don't you see I'm a qualified brahmana?
Oh yes, yes. Then you must be distributing Bhagavad-Gita also.
I don't need Bhagavad-Gita. I know about this stuff from my childhood. Let me tell you, my name is Prabhakar Chaturvedi. We are not ordinary people. We are allied pandits in the society.
Oh, then at such young age, you must have
I just started to read the four Vedas. Maybe in some years I will finish. Oh my.
Progressing, let's consider 70 years. So 35 years you spend in like your yajnanas and rituals, 12 years in sleeping, 8 years in eating, 10 years your family responsibilities.
Yes.
Just 5 years for study of Shastras?
Oh, so in this 5 years, will you be able to read all the Puranas, Vedas, Upanishads, everything?
Oh, 5 years? It's not enough. Maybe I need some more lifetimes. Then when will I be liberated?
Oh, don't be confused. I have a way out. Just in 6 months, you will be well versed in all the Shastras.
Just in 6 months? How is it possible? Tell
It
me.
is possible. You just by watering the root of the tree, separately you don't need to water each leaf.
Oh, Pandit ji, what are you thinking?
I am thinking, which plant to water, the banyan tree or the peepal tree?
Oh, Panditji, I was just giving an analogy.
I don't want your analogy. Give me a solution. How can I read all the Vedas in 6 months?
Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, Vedescha sarver ahameva vidyo vedant krit ved videva chaham. By all the Veda, he is to be known. He is the compiler of all the Vedas and he is the knower of all the Vedanta. And also, our Srila Prabhupada said, if someone knows Krishna, he knows the essence of all the Vedas.
Oh, now I understood. Just by watering the root, everything else will be nourished. So if I read one Bhagavad-Gita, I get the essence of all the Vedas.
Sure.
So can I get one more copy?
Yes.
I want to give it to my Brahmana friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
How much
This is
it?
250, this is 250, 500 rupees.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna.
much. Hare Krishna.
That's nice. The Brahmana took 2 copies of Bhagavad-Gita.
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Let's see who else
Hey,
is the next.
what's going on here? Are you selling Bhagavad-Gita?
Oh yes, we are distributing Bhagavad-Gita and it's for everyone.
Well, I don't believe in all this religious stuff. I believe in unity, not division. You get it? And I'm an atheist. And I'm secular about religion.
Oh, you're an atheist and secular also? Quite interesting.
So, do you ever read Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is?
No, 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 no. You know what this book has done to this country? It divides the nation.
So you were saying Bhagavad Gita divides the nation? But
Yes.
how?
Wait, let me show you. Tell me, what is this?
It's Namaste Mudra.
No, this is our nation.
Oh.
Now place this Bhagavad Gita here.
Okay.
Now tell me, what is this?
Book in the hand.
No, see, this has divided our nation.
Oh. So you were saying Bhagavad Gita divides our nation. Do you find any verse in the Bhagavad Gita that supports your philosophy? Go on.
Let me
Show
see.
us.
Actually, if you can't find, we totally understand.
Well, I can't see here that it says it divides us.
Exactly. Bhagavad Gita doesn't divide us, but it's all about recognizing that we all come from the one source. More you dig, the more you find the unity. Okay, let me show you something. Can you hold it for a while?
Yes.
Now tell me, what is this?
As per you, this is the hand gesture.
No. As per you, it's the nation.
Okay.
Can you place Bhagavad Gita here?
Sure.
Now tell, what had happened?
This has divided our nation.
No, can't you see the two different people are united by the Bhagavad Gita? So this is how the Bhagavad Gita unites us, not divides us, huh, Ishwarya?
You know, we follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In ISKCON, people comes from different countries, different faiths. We all come together and worship Krishna in all unity.
We follow real unity and diversity. We worship one God. We study one Shastra, Bhagavad Gita, and we chant Mahamantra.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
You see how we are connected together by the Bhagavad Gita?
Sounds interesting. I would like to take one copy of Bhagavad Gita.
Sure.
Tell me, how much does it cost?
You would like to take the Hindi or the English?
Give me one Hindi.
Oh,
This is Hindi, this is 250 only.
All right.
And also I will suggest you to take a book, Lord Chaitanya's teachings.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, who teaches us unity and diversity. So these two
Alright.
books for you.
Thank you. How much do I have to pay you?
370?
Okay, this is the cash.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you again.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's good to be having to the books.
ऐसा था.
You can keep this.
Oh, hey.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Glam Girl. Today I am at ISKCON Vrindavan, famously known as Angrej Mandir. See, so many foreigners are here in Vrindavan in ISKCON temple. Yay! Let's see what these Hare Krishna folks are up to.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Hey, Bhagavad Gita for you.
Oh, interesting. If you are into this, check it out. By the way, what is this all about?
It's a manual for human form of life.
Oh, interesting. This is the manual for human life. You should get one copy of.
Hey, wait.
What about your Bhagavad Gita?
No, I'm not interested in Bhagavad Gita. I'm too young for Bhagavad Gita. My grandpa said we do.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare.
Hey,
Hare.
wait, come back. What
Yes,
are you
yes,
going?
yes. We have a Bhagavad Gita for you. Please, please.
No, I'm not interested in Bhagavad Gita. My grandpa said when we get older, that kind of stuff.
Oh,
it's
you
okay.
mean to say Gita is for the oldies?
Yes, exactly. When I will I will older and retired, I will definitely think about it.
But you're using iPhone, huh? So is it like you learn by yourself or you use the manual?
Well, obviously the manual.
Yes, same goes for life. Gita is the manual of our human life.
Oh, interesting. Can you please tell me more about it?
Yes, Krishna spoke this Bhagavad-Gita not to the old folks, but Arjuna, who was young, like you.
Yes, so Gita is definitely not for the old people. It's for everyone who want to live life without stress.
Oh, looking so interesting.
Yes.
Can you please give me one copy of Bhagavad Gita?
Sure,
yes.
take one.
How much?
This is 250 only.
Can I pay online?
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
I have one more book for you. There is Path of Perfection that will teach you how to balance your life.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here you can.
Yeah, you can
Scan.
make the payment here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I take a video with
Oh
you?
yes, yes. why
Sure,
not?
sure.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Don't forget to share this on your channel. Do share on your channel. Hare Krishna.
Okay,
That's
yes.
nice,
Look,
good.
you seal that deal. I'll make another payment and then we'll seal this one, okay? I don't want any messing up with my deal.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, I can talk to you a bit later. I'm in a strange place.
Hare Krishna. Take
Yes.
Bhagavad Gita. Today we have a festival.
Festival?
Oh yes, yes.
What
Book
kind
festival.
of festival? Book festival. Who has a book festival? I mean, you're selling the sacred book on the street, just like vegetables? Is this not disrespectful? My God.
No,
Look.
no, no.
I know a thing or two about this book. Let me show you. When I travel, I always keep a red cloth.
Oh.
And I'll show you why. This is how you respect the Bhagavad Gita. You take a red cloth.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Can I? Yes.
Yeah.
You wrap it up nicely in the red cloth. Well, let's see if my cloth fits it. Somehow like this.
Maybe this one will
Yes?
fit.
No, I'll manage.
Okay.
And when it's nice and tight, where do you keep it?
Where?
Where do you keep the Gita when it's wrapped up in a red cloth? In the temple room. And then you never touch it again. That's how you read the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah,
Can you keep your red
it's
cloth with
very
you?
precious to
Of
me,
course,
yes.
the Bhagavad Gita should be treated well.
Yes.
But let me ask you,
Uh-huh.
if you have a nice car,
Right.
will you drive it?
Wait a minute. I'm a saleswoman. I'm a businesswoman. You're trying to sell me the Gita? Look,
Oh,
I know exactly what this book does.
What?
What do we see on the cover? This is Arjun. And this is who?
Krishna.
Krishna.
Yeah.
And what are they doing?
What they doing?
They are fighting. So if I keep this in my house, there will be too many fights. Thank you, but no thank you.
Oh, ma'am, we can have a little conversation, no?
If you like.
Yeah. I was asking, if you have a nice car, you drive it or you just park it in your garage?
Of course, I'm going to drive it.
Oh, wow. You're looking so nice, ma'am. Such a
Oh,
nice
thank
suit,
you.
huh? If your husband gives you a nice suit,
Right.
so you wear it or you just keep it in wardrobe?
Well, that's a silly question. Of course, I'll wear it.
Oh, yes. So here.
Similarly, Gita, you have to show the respect by read it, by understanding and apply in your life. Not just wrap it and keep it in the temple.
Well, why should I read it?
Yes, because knowledge is, respect the knowledge by understanding it and applying it.
Not to just keep it in your mandir.
Yeah.
That's how I've seen it in my
This is the
childhood.
treasure of our life.
I never thought of it that way.
How?
Now you can give a
So-
thought.
Yeah?
You mean if I keep this in my house, there won't be any fights?
No, definitely not. All the fights will be stopped definitely.
Well then, you've changed my mind, I must say.
Oh,
I
Jai
don't get
Srila
easily
Prabhupada.
convinced. I shall take a copy, please,
So you
in
take.
English.
Oh, here you go.
But
Huh?
I'm a businesswoman, right?
Okay.
I want to give this to all of my clients now that you've convinced me.
Wow.
Oh,
But I'd like to have a discount.
oh, sure, ma'am. You can visit our BBT office and there you will find our devotee Sarang Thakur. Surely he will give you a discount.
BBC, British
Oh,
Broadcasting
no. It's BBT, Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust.
Uh-huh. Okay. I shall do that. Well, thank you very much. It was lovely to meet you.
But you can pay for it here right now.
I shall make the payment in the BBT.
No. For this copy you can pay here.
I shall make the payment in the BBT. Bye now.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anyhow, that lady took the book. Oh, that's nice. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Let's see who's next.
Yeah.
Huh. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I need a Bhagavad-Gita. Can you show me?
Oh yes, here is Bhagavad-Gita as it is by our Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, here you go. Here are the chapters. You see the shlokas, the word-to-word translation, the meaning.
Hey.
And see.
Why are you touching Bhagavad Gita? Just give away the Bhagavad Gita.
Why? What's
My
wrong? in
wife is innocent,
Oh.
and we have only 3-year-old baby. And if she touches Bhagavad Gita, she will become Vairagi. Then what will happen to our baby? And what about my family life?
Let me look at it.
No need to touch or look. Just give away.
See, my husband is so fearful.
Oh sir, you see, the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna spoke to Arjuna, and he is a young, responsible person, not a Vairagi or a Brahmachari.
Yes, Arjuna has
Come on,
wives, children, kingdom. Top of that, he was a military man. Lot of responsibilities.
But you see, Arjuna is of old times. We are living in the 21st century, and this is the era of artificial intelligence, AI. Do you know that?
But this is RI, real intelligence. And who gave this? Krishna. And he shows us the way how we should be materially established and spiritually advanced.
Yes, even Krishna performed prescribed duties by setting his own example. He quotes Janaka Maharaj in Bhagavad-Gita as an example of a great devotee.
Sir, what's your name?
Vivek.
You are wise by your name, huh? So, sir, you don't need not to be fearful. Where are you from?
From Delhi.
Oh, wow. In Delhi, we have so many big ISKCON temples. You see there how many Grihastha couples goes there, practice devotional service, and balance their spiritual and material life, keeping Krishna in the center. So same way, you can also practice and see by yourself.
Shall we take one?
Okay, just take one.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, you need to make the payment?
Yeah.
Okay, I make the
Oh, okay, sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
See you in one of the ISKCON temples as a nice Grihastha couple. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Oh, finally, he confessed.
Finally, he took it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, who is next? Oh, Hare Krishna. Take Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, I am a scientist. I don't need it. Keep it with yourself.
But did you actually read it?
I haven't read it. I just know it. Just like I know the laws of physics.
Oh, quite interesting. Then you must be knowing what is the summary of the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, please. These all are silly questions. This is all mythology. If you want the real truth, start believing in science. You must have heard about Big Bang, right?
Got it. So if I put some bunch of rocks, water and cement together and blast it, magically it will turn into a big building, right?
Huh? Of course not. That would create a disaster.
Big Bang. So where did that bang even came from? And whomever created it?
Never thought about it like this way.
And to destroy something, we must create something first, right?
Yes, of course.
So who created? Do you have any scientific answer for that?
Well, Krishna does. He says in Bhagavad-Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. He is origin of everything.
Wait, that's in the Gita?
Oh, yes.
Yes, Bhagavad-Gita chapter 10 verse 8. Not even that. Many more verses you will get in Gita. You know, relation to creation, creator, law, lawmaker, and many more fascinating topics.
This is spiritual science with full proofs and facts.
Wow, I would love to take one.
Yes,
Sure. Also, you can take life comes from life. Yeah, sure.
And
Nandapriya.
there is beyond that an illusion, and there is
These
one
all books are very
consciousness,
interesting,
the
you know.
missing link.
Wow, you have all these books related to science?
Oh,
Yes.
Wow, I would love to take all the books.
Please
You
take.
should also take the ones.
Yeah, sure. Will you make the payment cash or online? Online? Oh, sure. Here. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, we have done with all of this. Oh. Okay, we can see. Hare Krishna. Here is a Bhagavad-Gita. Would you like to see?
Aha! Fingerprints! This is suspicious, Daya.
Yes, sir.
Let's send this to the lab. It could be tied to some international money laundering.
Sir, this is just a Bhagavad Gita.
Exactly! They are spreading knowledge, which could be a cover up for something bigger.
No, sir. Sir, you are wearing very nice coat. Where it is from?
It's imported from Italy.
Wow, Italy. Sir, your shoes, it's woodland, huh? So amazing, sir.
Exactly.
And your phone, sir, iPhone 16 Pro Max
It's
from
updated.
Apple. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. But, sir, you are accusing us to send money outside?
But
Sir, whatever you are using, everything is imported and you are blaming us that we are sending money to foreign. Krishna spoke Bhagavad-Gita in the battlefield of Kurukshetra in this Bharat to benefit everyone.
Our Srila Prabhupada took this knowledge to benefit everyone. So, sir, we are not sending money outside, but we are spreading the real glory of India.
Yes, Srila Prabhupada started this BBT, Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust, so that this spiritual literature can be spread far and wide and people can get the help and transform their lives.
what about all these WhatsApp scrolls which I get every day?
Sir, please, don't judge us on your WhatsApp scrolls. Huh? You come yourself and see what we are into.
We are service-oriented society, sir. And have not you seen in the WhatsApp scroll that during COVID lockdown, how many plates of free prasadam we are distributed?
That makes some sense, right?
So-
But I'm basically a detective. I'll do my research. And can I get a copy of your Bhagavad Gita?
Sure.
Me too. I want one copy.
Yeah, take this
Thank you.
one.
I can pay you by cash.
Oh, yeah, sure.
sure.
Thank you, sir.
Hare Krishna.
Do read, sir. Do your research. Come and visit us.
Sure,
Hare
sure.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
What an interesting day, Nandapriya.
Oh, yeah.
Different people came from different walks of life, benefited by Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, life is adventurous with the distribution of Srila Prabhupada books, and it's so exciting. Srila Prabhupada
Srila
book
Prabhupada
distribution
ki
ki
jai.
jai.
Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.
Video.
मेघ भी नहीं बोली.
Succession. So we have to simply take instruction from Guru, and if we execute that to our heart and soul, that is success.
Everyone has to go into.
That is practical. I have no personal qualification, but I simply try to satisfy my Guru. That's all. My Guru Maharaj asked me that if you get some money, you print books. Yes. So I took up this from his mouth, that he is very fond of books. And he told me personally that if you get some money, print books. Therefore I am stressing on this point. Where is book? Where is book? Where is book? So kindly help me. This is my request. Print as many books in as many languages and distribute throughout the whole world. Then Krishna consciousness movement will automatically increase. comparison. There is no literature throughout the universe like Srimad Bhagavatam. There is no comparison, there is no competition. Every word is for the good of the humanity. Every word, each and every word. Therefore, we stress so much in the book distribution. Somewhere or other, if the book goes in one's hand, he will be. At least he will see. They are taking so much pride. Let me see what is there. If he reads one sloka, his life will be successful. If he reads one sloka, one word, it is such nice thing. Therefore, you are stressing so much. Please distribute book, distribute book, distribute book.
ये ले 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 बुरा चलो हम उधर से जा रहे हैं
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
Grand opening. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back for day 2. This morning, I'm sure all of you were at the Julian Festival this morning. Beautiful Radha Shyamasundar deities here. So, installed by Srila Prabhupada. And that's what you're going to be seeing in this video today, part of what Yodabar is showing, the following Srila Prabhupada series that he made over the years. And for the first time since I can remember, I've been looking at them. Panchagoda and I in his office, we've been watching this series. And I got to see the opening from 50 years ago. And it was a big festival. Elephants. Anyway, all this I got to watch on your video, even though I was there 50 years ago. So Yodabar was filming this. And everything you see, he's filming. And of course, we know he's the movie, Hare Krishna movie, which is around the world in the cinema. I saw it in Hawaii, I think, when it first came out. I was living in Hawaii at the time, so I saw it there, and I saw people's reactions. And I've seen the reactions at Govardhan Eco Village when we were there. And just by watching this movie, they were yogi Westerners, yogi types. And when they saw that movie, there were a couple of the ladies who said it changed their lives. So they went from being yogis to being bhakti-yogis by seeing this movie. So anyway, all of us, his godbrothers and sisters, and all of you, we owe so much to him for filming all of this. I remember, I had the good fortune to be in some of these videos, and forgetfulness is a sad thing. And when I see what I missed out on while I was with Srila Prabhupada, that's another story. Anyway, please welcome Yadabar Prabhu, my friend and godbrother, and we're very happy to have him here. Please give him a big welcome.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Please excuse my voice. I think I lost my voice in Vrindavan. I'm still working on the heart part. Anyway, it's so wonderful to be here in this gathering. All of you, just so many God brothers I haven't seen and God sisters I haven't seen for years. It's just so nice to get together, just again and again. So what you'll see tonight is about a 50-minute section of following Srila Prabhupada. That series it's a 31-hour series in chronological order. All the films we know exist of Prabhupada. And what you'll see tonight is just pre-installation day, a few days before, and then the installation, and then after the installation. But at the very end of the film, we're going to show, again, part of the same film, but with a different soundtrack. The individual DVDs had 3 soundtracks on them. So we'll hear the music and live sound instead of the remembrances by the devotees. And by the way, the series has 335 well-wishers and disciples speaking about Srila Prabhupada. If you watch the whole series, you'll learn a lot about Prabhupada. It's actually a whole book, 31 hours of speaking. So thank you again for coming, and Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada. Yeah, it's available on YouTube, our YouTube channel, Hare Krishna Film Classics. Hare Krishna Film Classics. All the early films are also there, and it's in Russian also there, following Srila Prabhupada. Many different languages. Thank you again. Hare Krishna.
My first involvement was when I met Prabhupada in England, in Bury Place. I was a very young, very new devotee, and I was all freshened up, ready to go into the evening arati, and Prabhupada wanted to see me. So I went up to his room. I was feeling very, very nervous, and Prabhupada says, I want you to go to Vrindavan to help build a temple. We want to build a Krishna Balaram temple. So I went with a devotee called Smarahari. We came to India on a one-way ticket. We arrived in Vrindavan. Smarahari went to Mayapur to serve there. I stayed on in Vrindavan. And things were very slow in the beginning. There were no funds. There was not even a concept for the temple. No design. And, of course, the key ingredient, no cement. So you'd think, well, how is it going to happen? How is Krishna going to help us fulfill Prabhupada's desire? So Guru Kripa Maharaj, he was given the task of going to Japan with his collecting party, the Namhata. And they would work very, very, very hard and bring a lot of money back to Prabhupada. And that was the beginning of real progress in the building of the Krishna Balaram Mandir.
As the opening was approaching, Prabhupada was on top of every detail that was going on, and he put what he considered all his best men in charge of all the different areas. They were all his GBCs, and they were all the different administrators at that temple in charge of prasadam distribution, greeting guests, cleaning the temple, whatever it was. They were just his assistants. And of course this was Vrindavan, so Prabhupada wanted everything done first class. And I remember him ringing the bell so many times during the day to get this GBC, get this one, get that one, going back, and he would be checking up to make sure that they were doing everything properly, and even receiving all of his disciples. There was nothing that escaped Prabhupada's vision, his perception. I remember him saying that all the devotees, they have to have nice facility to stay. They should have this to eat. They have to have cow's milk, not buffalo milk. I mean, every detail Prabhupada covered. It wasn't just the installation ceremony. That also, he was taking care of that, but it was all the different details. He was always giving us the guidance, but it was clear that Vrindavan was his temple. He wanted to make that statement. It was very important that everything was done properly in Vrindavan.
We had gotten local Brahmins to install the deities because Prabhupada said that without them doing it, people wouldn't think the deities were really installed. This is Prabhupada at the installation. So at one point in the ceremony they had to bring Prabhupada out. I guess he was the yajamana, the sponsor of the sacrifice, and he had to participate in some of the rituals. You just notice how Prabhupada sits here quite, I don't know what to say, submissively enduring the ritual of the Brahmanas. He also ordered that there would be a 24-hour Kirtan, and he told the devotees that the Kirtan is actually installing the deities. But they're quite elaborate, the rituals. You see how they do their coconuts up the real style. Prajumna was busy taking notes.
I've never seen a person draw something without having to erase anything. And I remember him, Surabi, he had these pencils in his pocket. And he said to me one morning, Gunanava, he says, I'm going to do the artist's conception. I'm going to draw the Krishna Balaram Mandir for the first time. I remember we were staying in these little straw-roofed huts, very, very humble dwellings. And he had a desk and a drawing board. I had an A3 sketch pad. And he opened it up and he started sketching. And his pencil never stopped. He didn't rub anything out, and it just manifested on this paper. And when he showed Srila Prabhupada that design, Srila Prabhupada beamed. I was in the room. Srila Prabhupada said, this is wonderful. And he was so proud of it, and he was showing some guests that were also there in the room. He said, oh, this is going to be the Krishna Balaram Mandir.
Prabhupada was responsible for everything, and he pushed everyone to do as much as they could do, and sometimes beyond our own limits. And I remember Surabi, who was in charge of it all, had to undergo a lot of chastisement. I would be getting Surabi so many times towards the end of it, the last week, and I don't know how much sleep he was getting. I know it wasn't very much. When Prabhupada would say, call Surabi, and he would tell him that this was wrong and that was wrong, and it was very intense.
In all those 2 years that all these temples were built, 2 or 3 years, there was always this pressure on time. It had to be done quickly. Everything had to be done so fast. And there was always delays, and that was a kind of a disappointment. I really did my best. I tried my best. And I think at times there was like an ego thing in me that I would feel that it couldn't be faster, but I could see that Prabhupada disagreed with me. And these were like moments that you probably make a lot of spiritual advancement, because you really got to face yourself. You're going to accept the fact that no, it is too slow, even though I could have had millions of reasons why, including there was no money, including the electricity went down, there were blackouts, whatever I would come up with. It just would not register. And Prabhupada, he would not accept that. It was like, now I have to surrender. So this was like my battle of surrender. It was always like, there is a way to do it faster, and then you have to find that out.
And I remember when all the deities were standing, they weren't on the altar yet, they were on the ground with their blindfolds on, and there was this opulent sort of hut built in the courtyard with fruits and coconuts and this whole thing. And Srila Prabhupada was over talking to a few Brahmins, I think, that were over on the side. And I'll never forget this vision. He was, it was as though he was calling on Krishna to come and enter into the forms of the deities. And there was this stream of light just coming down, and his hands were up like this, and the other people were just standing there with their palms folded, and he was saying something. I couldn't hear him because I was on the other side, but I saw that beautiful vision, and then they continued with the installation of the deities.
I went to Jaipur where the deities were being carved, and I supervised the carving of the deities, especially Prabhupada, because the carvers, they were working from photographs, often not very good. And so the man who was carving Prabhupada was having a really hard time. He was so frustrated because I kept trying to show him things and point out certain things on the photograph of Prabhupada, and they had to actually redo the whole carving at one point because some spot came up on Prabhupada's head. The sculptor finally said, "Now you do it," and he left. Because I watched him, so I kind of started learning a little bit. So I took over for a little while. Finally, the day came when all the deities were finished, and I brought the deities to Vrindavan on a train, and then a tanga, and then I took a rickshaw. It was like early in the morning, 3 a.m. or something, just as I started entering the outskirts of Vrindavan, with all the deities in their crates. All the peacocks started crying. The hair on my head stood up from that sound. It was an amazing experience.
Nothing would stand in Prabhupada's way. This temple had to open as soon as possible. And there were many obstructions. You live in Vrindavan, you try and get things done. Everything's magnified 100 times. So if there's an obstruction, it's a big one. It's 100 times more obstructive than anywhere else in the world. But finally, through great endeavor, the day arrived.
M. Channareddy was the governor of Uttar Pradesh. He comes from Andhra Pradesh originally, and Prabhupada had some contacts with him. He was also a life member. Prabhupada had very specifically invited him. That was very important to Srila Prabhupada, that the governor come for the opening. And he was establishing the credibility of our movement. And Prabhupada was such a gracious host that even though he was very sick at that time, Prabhupada somehow or other completely shed all of his illness and was acting in every way as if he had had absolutely no illness. And then later in the evening he was not well again. But Prabhupada would just completely ignore his physical condition.
The first arati was going to take place, and I was in the temple room, and the temple room was packed with people. And you know how it is in India, everyone's shoving each other one way. It was like an ocean of people just going from one direction to the other, and somehow or other I found myself right in the middle, and the curtains opened. I had no idea that Prabhupada was going to offer the first artik. And it was so wonderful just watching Srila Prabhupada as he was offering the articles. He was offering them with such love and simplicity.
When the curtains opened up, I was right in front of the Krishna Balaram altar. And I was so filled with ananda, just thinking of the triumph of Prabhupada and all that went into it. So just thinking of that, tears were just pouring out of my eyes. And I just wanted to stand there and watch Prabhupada in his moment of glory and relish it.
There was just one person between me and a clear view of Srila Prabhupada, and that was Srila.
Triumph of Prabhupada and all that went into it. So just thinking of that, tears were just pouring out of my eyes. And I just wanted to stand there and watch Prabhupada in his moment of glory and relish it.
There was just one person between me and a clear view of Srila Prabhupada, and that was Tripurari Swami. So I was standing behind him, and I did everything I could think of. I held my camera in front of him. I tapped him on the shoulder. But he was just fixated on Prabhupada offering the arati.
Vishaka wanted to take a picture, and I was blocking the view. And so she's tapping me on the shoulder, which, a lady wouldn't normally do that in ISKCON. And I was a sannyasi at the time, on top of the new sannyasi. And, I was hearing her, but I wasn't listening.
He remained fixed in his position and, in fact, just ignored me. So I became a little bit desperate, and I put my mouth next to his ear because the kirtan was very loud. And I said loudly, "If you stand there, then you can see Srila Prabhupada offering the arati. But if you let me stand there, then the whole world will see Srila Prabhupada offering the arati."
So she got to me, and I stepped out of the way, and she took a very famous picture.
Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavan.
There's one part towards the end of the artic, he's offering the peacock fan. And as he looks out to offer it to the devotees, the smile on his face is unbelievable. It was like one who'd conquered the earth. He'd done it. He'd installed Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan, and you could just read his face. It was full of bliss, full of happiness.
When Srila Prabhupada gave the lecture on the day of their installation, he gave the lecture in Hindi, so it would have been directed to the local guests. And he was begging forgiveness from all the personalities there for any offenses. And that struck me.
There were days of speeches by different godbrothers and learned men of Vrindavan. In particular, I remember there was one speech given by Nisringaballabha Goswami, where Nisringaballabha Goswami gave extensive scriptural evidence of how persons who were not members of the Vedic culture could be elevated to the platform of Brahmins and Vaishnavas. And Prabhupada was quite pleased with that speech. It was given in Hindi, but Prabhupada gave a summary afterwards.
And the other thing I'll never forget is the quantity of pink rose petals. And there was this abundance of pink rose petals that you were actually kind of up to our ankles on the floor. It was so special. After Mangalarti, we were all making garlands for Krishna and Balaram. And one day there were lots of broken flowers left that couldn't be used for the garlands. So I had them all in this sheet that we'd been using on top of the floor to make them in. And I took them and I showered them over Srila Prabhupada from the balcony in the guest house. And then he gave this instruction that we shouldn't waste the flowers. Srila Prabhupada was very conscious, in India particularly, of wasting the money. He knew how to protect the flowers so they'd stay fresh for longer. He told us to wrap them in damp cloths and hang them in a cold place. He knew everything about flowers, it seemed to us. But also he didn't want us to waste. Even though, practically speaking, the flowers couldn't be used, he still wanted to teach us not to waste. And he considered that showering flowers on him like the demigods in the heavenly planets a waste of flowers. So I never did that again.
The Vrindavan project was actually the very first real temple in ISKCON. This established Prabhupada so much in Vrindavan. I think he felt very good about that. Because actually Bombay was started earlier, but it was stopped because of the court cases. And I think at that time he was trying to get Bombay first. And then everything was blocked there. And Mayapur was a long-term project. It wasn't so urgent. And then Vrindavan became priority. So it only took about 2 years to build Vrindavan, less than 2 years. Most ashrams and temples, they went very slow. When money came there, they would build something, and ours went very fast, very quickly done. And that was the same in Bombay, actually. Of course, Vrindavan had beautiful buildings, very classic buildings, but the standards were not very high in most of them. They were sort of run down a little bit, they were dark inside, and they didn't have much life, actually. And then this one was just so clean and fresh and lively, and there was just, everything was beautiful in there. And that's what people felt also when they would come to the temple. It sort of woke up Vrindavan.
There was a parade, quite an elaborate procession through the streets of Vrindavan. There was an elephant, there was a Shania band, and all the devotees doing Kirtan. It was quite a commotion with all of this procession going through. Prabhupada seemed to be very beaming and happy. He was walking at the head of the procession. And which, now that I think of it, must have been quite funny for people who knew him from before. And here he is with an elephant, a Shania band, and all these Western disciples walking through the streets where he had walked so many times as a sadhu. And we walked quite a ways. It seemed like a very, very long walk through the city.
The procession, it was like something out of the Bhagavatam. Decorated cows and bulls, brass bands, drums, kirtan parties, thousands of people. Residents came out of their homes, their businesses, as Prabhupada walked by, offering him water, flowers, and similar gifts. I remember that day I heard that Prabhupada wasn't well. The devotees wanted him to sit on a palanquin. It was a very long procession, but he refused. He walked the whole way.
They had a Rath, because that's the tradition. There's a Rath, and the spiritual master rides on the Rath, and then there's a procession. And there were hundreds of devotees. And at one point, Prabhupada decided he wanted to get off the Rath and walk with us. So when he did that, everyone just wanted to come and touch Prabhupada's feet at the same time, especially the Indian-bodied people who had come to the festival. So immediately, I think it was Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was there. He organized us into human chains. We locked arms on either side of Prabhupada. So we went along the procession like that, keeping people from, crushing Prabhupada. During that procession, at times we would be farther away from Prabhupada, and at times we would be closer to Prabhupada. The farther away you got from Prabhupada, it was like being in a hurricane. It was just chaos. And as we came closer to Prabhupada, it got calmer and calmer and calmer, until when we were right next to Prabhupada, it was like we were in the eye of a hurricane. I mean, it was so calm and serene, and Prabhupada was just emanating this ecstasy. And it was a stark realization, the consciousness that the empowered pure devotee had. He could change the atmosphere, not just in a room where everything was organized perfectly, but he could change the atmosphere anywhere.
Prabhupada designed Krishna and Balaram deities, the mudra. He made a drawing, gave it to Bhardraj to have it made in Jaipur. There's no Krishna Balaram deity like this, with Balaram resting his arm on Krishna's shoulders. There's no deity like that. Prabhupada made that design. And then he would joke about it. Who is stronger, Krishna or Balaram? Bala means strength. He's the strong one. And everyone would say, Balaram. And then Prabhupada said, then why Balaram is resting on Krishna? This means Krishna is stronger.
So the bank was right under the guest house. That's actually where Prabhupada's room is now, where we have Bhagavad-Gita class. They opened a bank, and all the devotees crowded in, and Prabhupada was inside, and he was inaugurating the bank.
And he told this joke. I was craning through the little screen window to hear what he was saying. He said, so one man heard that money attracts money. So he went into the bank and he put his money on the counter. And the teller took his money and put it in the till and said, yes, can I help you? And the man said, well, I heard that money attracts money. So I put my money there. And he said, yes, but our money has attracted your money. And Prabhupada laughed, and everyone laughed. And that was his joke that he told.
There was one morning walk after the installation, and the temple was beautiful. It looked so beautiful. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was there, and he said, Prabhupada, Surabhi has really done a wonderful job. And Prabhupada, he kind of chuckled and he said, yes, everyone is saying Surabhi has done so nice. He said, but all I do is chastise him. He said, but that's my duty. I'm his spiritual master. And when he said that, all the ideas I had about, I used to think, poor Surabhi, and you just could understand. Prabhupada was always pushing us. And if we were able to, handle that and deal with it, you could make so much advancement in Krishna consciousness. Because with this pushing always came a lot of blessings. Whatever we could do was because of Prabhupada's blessings.
The next day, I was on Prabhupada's morning walk on what was then Chatikara Road, which at that time, of course, was really just a dusty road through a largely uninhabited, undeveloped region of Vrindavan, with woods and fields on both sides. And Prabhupada that morning was, again, very much pleased. He'd worked so hard to establish the temple and install the deities, and now it had come off. And Prabhupada recalled how he'd pushed the devotees. He said, I was practically whipping them. Then he began telling how Krishna was flattering Balaram. That, my dear brother, all of these trees are bending down to offer you their obeisances. And these bees, they're all great sages who are coming to you for your association. In that way he began describing that pastime. And then he said how Gaur Nitai and Krishna Balaram are non-different. There's no difference between Krishna and Balaram and Gaur Nitai. He said, so if you ever have any difficulty, you can go before Gaur Nitai or Krishna Balaram and say, sir, this is the problem, and they will do the needful.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama.
It was just a wonderful victory for Prabhupada, the opening of the Krishna Balaram temple, a great triumph over many obstacles. In all of the temples in India, the principal temples that Prabhupada opened, Mayapur, Vrindavan, and Bombay, he struggled. In Mayapur, he struggled with his own godbrothers. And in Bombay, of course, he struggled with the tenants, the municipality, and in Vrindavan, he struggled with the Goswamis, and so all of them were a great victory. But I think Vrindavan was the greatest victory, and it was the homeland of Prabhupada, as he said, my place of worship is Mayapur, my office is Bombay, and my home is Vrindavan. So it was a great triumph, and we all felt it. And from there, he built a bridge across the whole ocean to the whole rest of the world, that people could easily walk over that and enter into Vrindavan. He gave life to the whole of Vrindavan, actually, enthusiasm for Krishna Bhakti. Even those who had opposed him in some way, recognizing, yes, you're a hometown boy, and you've made us famous all over the world, and you've brought Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission everywhere, and it was like formally really recognized by the town of Vrindavan. I remember at the time there were 6 Brahmin boys that were initiated from Brahmin families in the Braj. It was a big thing. for a Brahmin boy to be initiated by Prabhupada and be in a movement where there were eat chapatis cooked by persons born in the West and so forth. It was a huge triumph for Vaishnavism over religion, experiential, spiritual life over religion, Vaishnavism over Brahmanism. One of the causes that Prabhupada championed his whole life.
We were on the list for second initiation in Vrindavan. So that was very exciting, because the first initiation that we had in Los Angeles, Srila Prabhupada wasn't able to be there, and we were initiated by his older disciples on his behalf at the time. But this time we were getting personally second initiation from Srila Prabhupada, so that was very exciting. We had the ceremony, and then we lined up outside his quarters and were to go in one by one to get the Gayatri mantra. I didn't have a lot of money at the time, so I didn't really have any money to offer. So I went and got a big papaya. I thought, well, I'll offer him a fruit that he can have for breakfast or something. And I remember going in, I offered my obeisances, and I was just extremely nervous. Didn't know what I was supposed to say or anything. I just said, Jai Srila Prabhupada. And then he was sitting on the other side of his desk with his knee propped up. It was very warm, already in April. And he had on his sannyasi top. And he patted the floor beside him, sort of like saying, come on over here, like calling his little dog. So I went scampering over and was sitting right next to him. And I remember being really nervous, but I wanted to be sure that I pronounced the Sanskrit nicely. Maybe I was even a little proud, because Jai Advaita once had told me that my pronunciation was very nice in Sanskrit, probably from my German background. So he would point to one word after the other, and I would repeat. And I was trying to do it really nice. I have to impress my teacher. I felt so foolish and arrogant and foolish all at the same time. Then he says, do you know how to count? And I said, yes, I've been watching the devotees for the past years doing their Gayatri. And I thought, gee, I should really have an intelligent question to ask, but of course I couldn't think of anything. I was just sort of dumbfounded. But I just remember feeling so much kindness and love. Just so simple and practical, and I just paid my obeisances and left.
This is early morning, after the morning program. I was very amazed to get initiated on that day, and Prabhupada actually turned to Prabhupada and said, this boy actually is too young to be initiated. I was only 9, and he didn't say anything. So Prabhupada looked at him and says, never mind. And then he asked for the principles, and I wanted to tell Prabhupada the regulatory principles in English. I was studying them during the initiation ceremony. So I told him 2 of the principles in English, and the other 2 I got stuck. And my teacher, Prabhu, he was behind Prabhupada. He was trying to encourage me. He said, don't worry, tell him in Bengali, the other 2. This is me. If you look carefully, I didn't have a sikha, because the barber in Mayapur, a couple of days before I arrived in Vrindavan, he by mistake cut all the hair off. I didn't have any sikha, and all the devotees have sikha, and they were making fun of me, and I look at his Mayavadi. And Bhagavad-Gita fired the barber because he forgot to save me a sikha. So anyway, Prabhupada didn't mind. He didn't say anything. And Prabhupada was quite pleased at that time. He saw in my face that I was trying to tell him the regulatory principles in English to please him. And he smiled, and then he gave me the beads.
The installation of the deities was in Ram Nomi, and then the initiation ceremony took place on Balaram's Ras Purnima, April 21st, which was 5 or 6 days later. After the Hyderabad Pandal, we were headed from Hyderabad to the opening of the Krishna Balaram Mandir, and a whole bogie was reserved for the devotees, so it was all just devotees in the train. And there was one Indian sadhu sitting on his suitcase by the bathroom. And he didn't really mix with any of the other devotees. Mostly they were just Western devotees, a few Indian devotees, like Haridas. And I was really wondering whether he was part of the group or not. He very quiet and very patiently sat on his suitcase by the bathroom the whole way to Vrindavan. And then, during the festival, although there was a moratorium on sannyas, the devotees had gone to Srila Prabhupada and asked if Tripurari could take sannyas. And I was really wondering whether he was part of our group or not. He was very quiet and very patiently sat on his suitcase by the bathroom the whole way to Vrindavan. And then, during the festival, although there was a moratorium on sannyas, the devotees had gone to Srila Prabhupada and asked if Tripurari could take sannyas. And Prabhupada said yes. And they said when? And he said, well, he can take now. So along with Tripurari, one other devotee took sannyas, and his name was Gaur Govinda. And then when he was there, I saw that this is the same devotee that was sitting very quietly by the bathroom, coming from Hyderabad to Vrindavan.
I was serving at the Montreal Temple, Canada, and there was a lot of devotees going to India, and before we left, I went back home to Los Angeles where my parents lived to give them a visit. And as I was leaving there, my mother asked me, out of the blue, she said, is there something I can give to you to take to your spiritual master? And I was really taken aback by that question, and I went, oh, that's so nice. And I said, I don't know. What would you like to give him? And she said, I could make him some guava jam, because we had fruit trees at the property. So I told her that would be really nice. And so she made the guava jam, and she wrote on there for Srila Prabhupada. And when I was in Vrindavan, I went up to Srila Prabhupada's quarters and handed it through to one of his servants. And that was that. And then I found out for 2 days the Prabhupada servant was looking for me. He had remembered what I looked like, but he didn't know my name. Finally, he found me, and he said that Srila Prabhupada really loved the jam, and he wanted my mother's name and address because Srila Prabhupada wanted to write her a thank you letter. There it was. I mean, all these devotees, huge event, the opening of the temple, the installation of the deities, and Srila Prabhupada was so concerned to write a thank you letter. So my parents received a letter from Srila Prabhupada, and he was thanking my mom so nicely for this guava jam. And he told her that it was his favorite jam and that his mother used to make guava jam for him. And then he went on to say that, do not worry about your daughter. I am taking care of her. She is nicely engaged in the Lord's service. It was just a really sweet letter. It's just so amazing that Srila Prabhupada took that time to recognize just that little gift from my mother in amongst so much activity going on and so many devotees.
Well, here Prabhupada's giving Bhagavad-Gita class. He actually wanted Bhagavad-Gita class to be held in the courtyard. And there was one Indian joined, his name is Prem Yogi. And he told him that he should give class in Hindi every evening. And there was also an Indian couple, Pranav and his wife, Vanamali. And he told him that he should also give Hindi class and his wife should sing bhajans. But then Pranav said, actually my wife is more intelligent than me, better that she gives the class. She speaks from Bhagavad-Gita. And Prabhupada said, that's all right, if she can do that, she can give the class. Now these people here, these are students from Nepal. And Prabhupada wanted them to chant the Purusha Shukta every day. And this is the Hindi teacher. Prabhupada wanted us to learn Hindi. One morning I tried to demonstrate my Hindi. So I said, Prabhupada, I'm learning from this teacher. And he said, so what have you learned? I said, Ek balak jata hai, which means one boy is walking. Then Prabhupada said, you know how to say in Hindi, 2 boys are walking? I said, no. And then he laughed. He said, you'll never learn Hindi. So I took that as an instruction.
This tree was a place of pilgrimage for Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Long before the Krishna Balaram Mandir was constructed in Vrindavan, in the early 1970s, there were purported to be very few Tamal trees in Vrindavan, one at Rasatali and one at the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami and Radha Damodar. So when Srila Prabhupada noted that the land had a Tamal tree on it, he was very, very pleased. There's an interesting pastime about this tree. Long before Srila Prabhupada sat under this tree, as we're witnessing in this footage, he envisioned himself sitting under this tree and looking at the deities of Krishna Balaram. He said, we'll have Kirtan under this tree. And he said this tree should be worshipped. And the soil under the tree, a teaspoon of it should be taken and mixed with sand and water from the Yamuna River. And then with a coconut husk, you should clean the arati paraphernalia in our temple with this holy substance. This is a very sacred place for us. And let us pray that not only now, but in the future, Srila Prabhupada's wish will be fulfilled and Gaudiya Vaishnavas will be able to worship this sacred tree in this sacred location for many, many more years to come.
Jaya Gopagan Sudamadi Jaya Jaya Jena Matsagan.
The next step, the next key component was the establishing of the Goshala. Krishna Balaram now needs to drink milk. Just like they did 5,000 years ago when they were herding Nanda Maharaj's 100,000 cows. So Prabhupada called me into his room and he says, I'd like you to establish a Goshala. Krishna Balaram need milk and my disciples need to maintain health and vitality. Because in those days in Vrindavan, basically the milk that we were drinking was either watered down buffalo milk or very watered down, God knows what, milk. So that was important. So what do? Prabhupada has told me to start a Goshala. I didn't have any money. I didn't really know how to begin. So I had a Seiko watch on my wrist. And I thought, right, I'll sell my Seiko watch. And then Bagaji, one older Indian gentleman that Prabhupada regarded as his right-hand man in India. And Bagaji helped me incredibly over so many years in my service to Srila Prabhupada. So he took me to Govardhan market where there would be a monthly cow auction. And from the proceeds of selling my Seiko watch, I think we got about 800 or 900 rupees in those days for it, I was able to purchase 2 cows. And that's how the Goshala started. And the Goshala started simultaneously with the construction of the Gurukul, the boys' Gurukul ashram, which also Prabhupada asked me to oversee the construction of that building.
After everyone had darshan, when the deities opened in the morning for Mangal Arati, then they went to their sort of respective altar, like the women had Radha and Krishna, and the men had Krishna Balaram and Gonitai. And when Mangal Arati having darshan, and at some point I turned around and then there was Prabhupada with 2 or 3 other devotees with him, one secretary or something. But all I know is that it was amazing to turn around and Prabhupada standing. You know how there are some steps, so he could not see very much, I suppose, being down from the steps and having the woman standing, turning our back to him, not knowing he was here, obviously. But I found out from Upendra afterwards that he was there for almost 10 minutes. Somebody was going to come to tell us to move. But when they tried to do that, Prabhupada said to just leave it. I mean, here's Prabhupada, probably not seeing very much, and he just stood there with all our back to him. And had I not turned around and seen him, no one would have moved away. It touched me.
His Excellency the Governor will kindly again come and we'll hear from him. In the meantime, I may tell you something that here, this temple of Krishna Balaram is meant for international association. This temple is not reserved for any particular person, creed. No. Krishna said in the Bhagavad-Gita, Sarva Jonishu Komli, in all forms of life, as many living entities are there. There are 8,400,000 forms of life. Of course, I will not take much of your time. Jalajad Amrukhani, Sthava Rakhavunshas. There are 9 lakh species in the water. And there are trees, plants, 2 million. Similarly, there are birds, bees, and human being also. Human being very small number, only 4 lakhs of species. So this life is meant for understanding Krishna, because we all living entities are part and parcel of Krishna. Homaimansa Jivu. We are not different from Krishna, just like the father and the son. It is not different. The father appears as son. Similarly, we are all part and parcel of Krishna, and we are transmigrating in so many different forms of life. But if we understand Krishna, Janma Karma Se Miti Pamchu Jnanati Tattvato, to understand Krishna, right, then we become free from this process of transmigration from one body to another. So, this is the essence of our Vedic teaching. Now, our Krishna consciousness movement is a teeny attempt to give the human society an opportunity to understand what is Krishna and then make his life successful. Successful means that we stop the continual process of birth, death, old age and disease. So, we have got a great mission. We thank you very much for your participating in this ceremony, and we hope you will continue and get benefit out of this movement. That is our only desire. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Again, this is part 8 of a 11-part series in the video series called Following Srila Prabhupada. I urge all of you to see the whole thing. It's a yagya, I know. So many videos are available on YouTube, and so many distractions these days. But please try to see the whole thing. And also I'd like to say a little bit about our film Hare Krishna, the mantra, the movement, and the Swami who started it all. Put that up. We just released the film in shorter versions for schools and colleges and venues with shorter time periods. There's a 29-minute version. There's also a 47-minute version. And we actually have put the film in all the major Indian languages of India. In Hindi, Bengali, Marathi, Gujarati, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, and Telugu. So this is a huge endeavor by Madhava Prabhu of Hare Krishna Media and ITV. He worked very, very hard to do this, and let's all give an applause for Madhava Prabhu, who was given access to the whole of India through the Prabhupada's life story. So the QR code is there. That'll take you to the short versions, and also you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Hare Krishna Film Classics. So again, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Haribol. Take out your phones and scan it. and again, Share it with as many people as you can. This is something to be shared, not just enjoyed. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Yadavar Prabhu. That was quite a moving video there, watching the opening in Vrindavan with Srila Prabhupada. Anyway, next, Siddhanta Prabhu, who we know well from yesterday. Today is the second day, 6 days in total. Yes. So, everyone, please welcome Siddhanta Prabhu.
Thank you. Haribo. Can I get a show of hands of how many people here were not here yesterday? Were not here? Okay, thank you. So just real briefly then, 25 words or less. These are compilations of the memories that I've collected over the last 35 years from Prabhupada's disciples, similarly as Yadavar has done with his documentary. And you can, regarding his documentary, the oral history is essentially the memories of the devotees that he put on this film is incredible because you can actually hear the love, like Rasagya Devi Dasi was explaining her initiation. So these are things that we can take away. So when you watch these particular compilations of Prabhupada, these are all stories about Vrindavan, being that this is the 50th anniversary of Krishna Balaram Mandir. So that's the focus of these stories that I've culled out of the 450 disciples I've interviewed that are all discussing about Vrindavan. So when you watch this, I hope you absorb the history of the temple, the qualities of Srila Prabhupada, and the lessons he taught his disciples, so we can take that and imbibe that in our own lives. And I'll just say a few words afterwards, but enjoy the movie. Thank you.
I remember Prabhupada gave a lecture one day in the evening, an evening class, and he mentioned a godbrother of his, he'd received a letter that a godbrother of his had just passed away. Don't remember, somebody else will know the name. It was one of the Tirtha Swamis in the Gaudiya Math, but it wasn't Bhakti Vilas Tirtha, who lived, of course, much beyond that. It was another one whose name was something Tirtha Maharaj. And Prabhupada said that this particular godbrother was very kind upon him, and had actually written him a letter while he was living in Vrindavan as a Vanaprastha, or Jhansi or Vrindavan. I forget where he said he was, but he said he received a letter from this godbrother reminding him that Guru Maharaj, meaning Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, had wanted him to take sannyas and to preach, especially in the West. And this godbrother had written him a letter reminding him about that. And Prabhupada said, I did not want to take sannyas because it is a very difficult position materially. It's not easy to do, and I didn't want to do it. But this godbrother wrote me this letter at this time, and he said, and at the same time, right in the same days when I received this letter, he said, 3 times in succession, on 3 successive nights, he said, my Guru Maharaj appeared before me in dream. And each time in the dream, he was walking away from me, and as he was walking away, he turned around and beckoned for me to follow. And he went like this. Right? And he had that dream 3 times. I believe he said 3 nights in succession, but definitely 3 successive times in a very short span of time. Right at the same time that externally the godbrother had sent him this letter. And these things prompted him to take sannyas. What Prabhupada said specifically was, in this way, my Guru Maharaj pulled me out from this material world. And when he said pulled, 2 tears just literally suddenly formed and leaped out of his eyes and went then, and it was just like they were squeezed out by a shudder of ecstasy, and went running down his cheeks. They hadn't formed slowly and dripped down like most tears do. As he said pulled, his voice got real thick as he said it, and tears came shooting out of his eyes. And everybody in the room was just speechless, right? Because we were all devotees or guests that were, but mostly it was just devotees there. It was an evening program and during a weekday. And I was very much impressed at the amount of intense feeling that he had toward his Guru Maharaj calling him to take sannyas.
I always had an attraction to Vrindavan. And as early as 1967, I wanted to go to Vrindavan. So I remember one morning, we were on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada. I believe that was around Stowe Lake. And I was walking right next to Srila Prabhupada. And he stopped. He put out his cane, he was leaning on his cane. And he said, "So, we have received a letter from Achyutananda, and he wants some men to join his party in Lucknow." So I immediately popped up, said, "I'd like to go, Srila Prabhupada. May we go? May Gaudas and I go?" He said, "Yes, maybe we can arrange that. We will start an American house in Lucknow." Then we walked a little farther. Then he said, "No, you should not go now." And he turned around and he said, "Someday I will take you to India on foot. I will show you India on foot." So from that moment I was waiting for that day that would come. And that came about 3 years later, 1970, October 4th. Our party of American and European devotees landed in Bombay, and our party had just a few days earlier arrived in Calcutta via Tokyo, some swamis. And in that fall between October 4th and Srila Prabhupada leaving India in the spring of 71, in so many places he showed us India on foot, literally walking on foot through the streets.
And then Srila Prabhupada every day would take us on parikrama to many of the holy places. He took us to Govardhan and Badarsana and Nandagaon. He took us to the various places in Vrindavan, Radha Damodar Temple, Radha Govindaji Temple. And I remember especially one day he took us to Mahavan, Gokul, and he took us to Brahmandagat. And Brahmandagat is the place where Krishna was accused of eating dirt. And then he opened his mouth and Mother Yashoda saw the universe. I remember Srila Prabhupada so animately telling that story right at the place. He was telling the stories wherever he would take us. And then he told us to take bath in the Jamuna. So all the devotees were inviting Prabhupada to also take bath in Jamuna. But Srila Prabhupada said, "Today I am very sick and I cannot take baths, but you all go and enjoy a nice bath in Jamuna." So all the devotees were in Jamuna and he was on the steps, quite high over the river. And he was just watching all the devotees enjoying the wonderful ambrosial waters of Jamuna. And he was just smiling, looking at us. And he became so ecstatic just to see all the devotees bathing that he very quickly got up and took off his clothes and put on gamsha and came down to take bath with us in Jamuna. And devotees were very ecstatic, very happy. Everyone was gathered around him. And devotees were even bathing him like an abhishek with Jamuna water. And Srila Prabhupada was just very happy to be bathing in the Jamuna along with his disciples in the holy land of Vrindavan.
Bhagavad-Gita was telling all these beautiful stories and telling about bedding with Srila Prabhupada. And he was telling us about how Vrindavan was so special. And he said the fish in the Jamuna River, they'll be swimming along, and as soon as they feel like they're getting close to the Ganga, they turn around and swim back towards the Jamuna. And he said if you take, and Srila Prabhupada's right there listening to everything, and so we knew if Srila Prabhupada said, "No, that's not true," or he didn't say anything, it was like, oh, these are real pastimes. And the interchange between them, to see the friendly interchange, was just really lovely, because we had only seen Srila Prabhupada in settings with his disciples, where he was like a lion on the Vyasasan preaching to his disciples, but now he was in this completely different mood, relaxed with a friend. It was really sweet. And Bhagavad-Gita told us that each grain of sand, if you look under an atomic microscope, it would say, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And he said if you looked at the bones of the Vaishnavas, if you actually analyzed them, every microbe, every atom, every cell in there would say, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That the entire atmosphere of Raj was surcharged with the holy name of the Lord.
This was in Vrindavan. The Gurukul building was under construction. I probably would like to go over there every couple of days to see how it was progressing. So they went to the back of the building where all the workers were out there in the early morning, and he had a whole contingent of sannyasis and senior devotees with him. And they were looking out the back windows there at the workers, and they were out there, some of them were bathing under there was a pipe with water gushing out, and they were bathing, and some of them were on fires, were making chapatis, some of them were brushing their teeth with neem twigs, they were chanting, they were Brijbasis, a lot of them, so they were chanting songs about Krishna, and Prabhupada was just watching this whole scene and appreciating it. And finally he turned around and he said, just see. He said, they will rise early in the morning, they will work all day long, for what? He said, somebody said 3 rupees. For a few rupees, he said, they will work all day long in the hot sun, they will take bath, they will chant some mantra, he said, they will live in this simple way. He said, and then he was just kind of really appreciating how the simplicity of their life and how sincere and innocent they were. And then Hansaduta Maharaj said, Prabhupada, we should learn to live like this. And Prabhupada just began to laugh, and he said, you will never learn. You will never learn.
One very difficult time was in 1974. It's when Prabhupada was going for the opening of the Krishna Balaram Mandir. It was supposed to be on Janmashtami. So he arrived there, and of course the temple was nowhere near an opening, which got established very quickly. And Prabhupada remained there, and he got very ill. If you remember at that time, it's the first time we were actually chanting 24 hours a day in the temple room. It went on for weeks, and I would literally, I would put my arms, my arms under Prabhupada's shoulder blades to walk him into the bathroom, back out of the bathroom, sitting in the bed like that, day after day after day. And he's eating a little orange. One day, weeks into it, he said to me, I think I'm feeling some appetite. He said, make some upma. Now, Jamuna's there. And I said to him, Jamuna's here, I'll have her. No, he said, I like your upma. He said, you make it, which shocked me, and pleased me to unimaginable. So I go in and I say the exact same thing. I said, Prabhupada wants upma, Jamuna. Wonderful, she said, I'll get right on it. And I said, Jamuna, he asked me to make it. And she's such a wonderful devotee. Immediately, who could cook like Jamuna? Immediately she said, what do you need me to do? This was Jamuna, No, there was no ego at all. Well, he wants you, No, he said, well, how can I help? She said, this is what she was the one doing everything. Anyway, it was all we had were dehydrated peas. And I made it. I brought it into Prabhupada, on his plate, just a bowl. And I left the room. So we're all outside Prabhupada's door. This is what we just sit there and listen what you can hear. I think he's eating. Anyway, I hear a little ding, 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 ding. I go back in, I offer obeisance as I sit up, and I see this bowl. It doesn't look like he ate anything. Like a child, it looked a little moved around, maybe had a bite. Literally, it looked like, what a child would do. And as soon as I look up, he already knows what I'm thinking. Now, he's not even eating, and he looked at me. I want you to know, he said, it was very, very good. He said, but I have no appetite. He said, I thought if I had you make it something I really liked, that my appetite.
He said, but I don't have appetite. He said, but it was very good. So his only concern was he saw that I was upset that he didn't eat. Nothing about how he's feeling. And it was always like that. He'd be lying there and, you know, did you take prasadam? Did you get your shower? Did you do like this? So then that evening, it's hot. This is September, August in Vrindavan. So he would sleep on his, in the garden, Krishna Balaram Mandir, which there wasn't a garden, nothing was finished. But his rooms were 90% done. But he would sleep outside for the coolness. So he had a typical Indian bed with this mosquito net over it. And the mosquito net went down. They had made the surface with bricks, just laid them down. So I would massage him under the mosquito net, and then I would go under his bed and sleep there because the mosquito net protected me from the mosquitoes as well. So one night about 1 o'clock in the morning, I hear a noise. And I'm lying on the ground, and I'm just looking at Prabhupada lying on the ground. So of course I roll out and I pick him up and I sit him on the bed. And Prabhupada, what happened? He said, he said I had to pass, and I thought I had enough strength. He said, I didn't want to disturb you. He said, but I have no strength. And I'm Prabhupada. I said, I'm lying under your bed. I was chastising him. I said, I'm just lying under here waiting to do something. But he was always like that. If you were asleep, he didn't even want to wake you up. You know, this is his way. So then I got malaria. So now I'm literally deathly ill. You know, everyone's taking care of themselves. One day he walks through the door. I'm lying in the servants' quarters. They're eating prasadam. 3-4 devotees are eating prasadam. I'm lying on the floor. I mean, in very bad shape. Prabhupada's walking through to go to a bathroom, and he said, is anyone taking care of Surcharged? And I'm like, yeah, finally. He said, get him a bed to lie in, call the doctor, bring him some Nimbu Pani. And unless he had said it, I don't know what would have happened over the next 48 hours. But he said, take care of him. And so that happened, and I got better, but I was always ill. So finally I said, Brahmananda, I said, I want to go, I'm going to leave. You know, I said, I got to leave. I want to go back to the West. So, he said, I'll talk to Prabhupada. What I didn't know was when he went to do it, I'm in the room. I was very, I was always afraid to face Prabhupada with my issues. I had no problem taking care of him, but when it came to something, couldn't do it. So I'm thinking he's arranging everything. I go in the room, and when I go in, he says, Prabhupada, Shrutakirti wants to go back to the U.S. for his health. And I'm like, oh, man. So now I'm sitting, and Prabhupada looks at me. I'm right in front of me. He says, so, you know, he said, you need to go for your health? I said, Prabhupada, I said, yes, I think so. I said, I've been so sick. I said, is it all right? He looked at me. He said, all right. He said, you saved my life. He said, of course. He said, go back. He said, get your health. He says, we're going to be coming very soon. He said, then I'll meet you back in Los Angeles and you resume your activities. He said, but absolutely. I mean, I was feeling so distressed. And he just made you feel everything's all right. Whether it was or not wasn't the issue. It was, he didn't want you to feel bad. He just wanted to encourage you. So then that afternoon goes by. Every night I'm taking Prabhupada out. He's sitting in a rocking chair under the Tamal tree, listening to his disciples give class. And I'm sitting on the marble floor next to him. So we're at Krishna Balaram Mandir, under a Tamal tree, sitting next to Prabhupada on the floor in the temple. And I'm thinking, what a fool am I, you know, like, Prabhupada, it's beautiful. So I said, Prabhupada, I'm not going to go. You know, I said, I'll manage. And he looked at me, he said, that's very nice, he said. And he said, and because, he said, of your sincerity, he said, Krishna will take care of everything. And the next day, Bali Mridang comes from New York, unbeknownst to me at all. And he comes into the servants' quarters with a suitcase, you know, suitcase, regular old, and he opens it up, and he's like, this is for you. And it's filled with nuts, dried fruits, oats, like everything I dream about while I'm in India. And I'm there, I said, oh, thank you. I said, for Prabhupada. He said, no. He said, I brought it for you. And I'm like, huh? He said, no, I just thought, you. So, I mean, Prabhupada, that's Prabhupada. And Krishna. And Prabhupada said, yeah, Krishna. And he knew, he knew everything. But, just seeing his satisfaction when you could say something like that, it was very nice, he said. But he wasn't going to tell me, which he always dealt with me like that. Never told me what to do. He always said things in such a way, I have to make choices. Yeah.
What was supposed to be the grand opening of the Krishna Balaram Mandir in August of 1974. And I decided it was my turn to go to India. People had been going, the first wave of devotees went some years back, and people had gone to the Mayapur for Gaur Purnima the year before that. I had not yet made my initial trip to India, so I decided, all right, I'll go for this grand opening. And so the way I bought my ticket was LA, New York, then New York to India. But I decided I'll spend some days in New York. So while I was in New York waiting to board my next flight, I found out that Srila Prabhupada had arrived in Vrindavan, and he looked around and decided that the Krishna Balaram Mandir was not ready for a grand opening. The guest house wasn't finished. There was so much more construction that needed to be done. He called the festival off. But I was already in New York. I used the first part of my ticket. I figured, well, why not? Let me just go anyway. So off I went, and I arrived there in Vrindavan. It was a couple of days before Janmashtami. And it was nice because there weren't many people there. There was no festival. Otherwise, there would have been hundreds and hundreds of devotees there. So it translated into me having some more personal association with Srila Prabhupada. So, especially the fact that the first afternoon I was there, I happened to be standing outside of Srila Prabhupada's room as he came downstairs to give darshan. Every day he would have some darshan with the local people in Vrindavan. Palika came out of the kitchen or the pujari room with the garland and said, here, Swarup, give this to Srila Prabhupada. And already there were some elderly gentlemen sitting in the room, and Srila Prabhupada was sitting behind his desk, and they were talking. So I walked in, I put the garland on Srila Prabhupada, bowed down, gave my obeisances, and as I was walking out, Srila Prabhupada said, no, you can stay, sit down. And so I sat against the back wall, and I just watched. I watched and observed how Srila Prabhupada was interacting with these gentlemen. I had no idea who was who. Maybe some were his godbrothers. They were just people he knew from Vrindavan when he was living there. They all seemed, they were Brijbasis, very, pious, wonderful, old elderly gentlemen. And most of the talking was in Hindi or Bengali. Actually, it was Bengali mostly, except now and then I'd hear a verse in Sanskrit that I'd recognize. And I noticed how Srila Prabhupada would go in and out. He'd be just joking with them, talking very casually, and then he would get serious and quote, a verse that I recognize from Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad-Gita. And I realized that although all of us, his disciples, we had so much awe and reverence for Srila Prabhupada. I mean, just the fact that he was so much older than us. We always refer to Prabhupada as our spiritual father, but in reality, he was more the age of our grandparents. As a matter of fact, coincidentally, Srila Prabhupada was born the same exact day as my maternal grandpa, Abe, September 1st, 1896. But what I was noticing in the room is that these were gentlemen of his age and his generation, but they gave so much respect for Srila Prabhupada. There was a friendly exchanges. I could tell they were like reminiscing, just joking and talking, casual talk. But they were giving so much respect to Srila Prabhupada and recognizing his stature, his status. And it was nice to see. I realized that Srila Prabhupada's reputation, who he was, did not go unnoticed among the Brijbasis, among his godbrothers, because even by then, by 1974, his accomplishments were phenomenal. It was 9 years into ISKCON, not even 8, from 66 to 74. And what he had accomplished in just those 8 years was unbelievable. He was conquering the world. He was like a transcendental Alexander the Great. And so when he went back to India with his dancing white elephants, it was he was given this due respect, even by his old friends in Vrindavan. And it was nice to witness those exchanges in that room.
One time we carried Prabhupada, they were building the Gurukul in Vrindavan in 77, the last year there. And so we carried him in the rocking chair up to take a tour of it. And as we were going through the different areas, the devotee would say, "This is my room, Prabhupada." Another one, "This is my room, Prabhupada," and this and for this. Prabhupada got mad and he said, "You're all so concerned about yourselves, your own rooms. I built this school for the kids. Fill it up. Fill it up with students. This is for the students." And he got upset about that. Then as we were carrying him back to his room, when we went by, we were carrying him in the chair, they were chanting in the temple room. They knew Prabhupada was going by. So they were, "Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada." Prabhupada said, "What are they chanting?" And we said, "They're chanting Jai Prabhupada." And he said, "I do not like this. Tell them to chant Hare Krishna." So, I mean, it's okay a few times, but he didn't want it to go on and on and on and on.
Another time when he was circumambulating the temple, he came to originally they had used some kind of red stone that went around the parikram path, around the Krishna Balaram Mandir. And it was laid out in a particular pattern, but when it came to this one particular area where there was a curve, it was kind of a strange looking arrangement of stone. And Prabhupada pointed to it with his cane and said, "What is this?" He said, "This is not a proper pattern." He said, "They have cheated you. They have given you the rejected stone. And they have charged you according to the rate for the good stone. You've been cheated." Then Harikesh, well, this is the rasa that Harikesh had with Prabhupada. He would either try to correct or argue with Prabhupada. And everybody was always like kind of wondering, what's he going to say now? So he began to give an argument to Prabhupada. "No, Prabhupada, actually it is a pattern." And he launched into a complex explanation of how it was actually a pattern. And so Prabhupada said, "It's not a pattern. It's obvious it's not a pattern." And they were going back and forth. Finally, Prabhupada yelled at him. He said, "Yes," he said, "it is a pattern. It is a clown's pattern." And said, "And you are the fool." And then Harikesh began to laugh hysterically. And everybody was just kind of in awe that this person would have the nerve to argue with Prabhupada about something like this. But that seemed to be the nature of their relationship. But I just remember, yes, it is a pattern. It is a clown's pattern.
What happened was, again, this was my cooking pastimes with Srila Prabhupada. So, everybody else would be going through bead bags. I'd have this metal trunk full of, the kerosene stove, pots, pans, rolling pins, and, rice, dal, chapati, and flowers. So we're going on Vrindavan Parikrama, but we went in a bus. So I had my trunk with us. And the devotees' prasadam was being provided somehow or other. At this one place we stopped, and it was near Govardhan Hill. And there was this veranda, right off here was the street, and here was the veranda, covered over, and here was all these doors, like it was a dharamshala. But the thing that was really struck me funny was when you'd open the doors, there would be these rooms, like a dharamshala. It's just a room. You've been to India, so you know it's just a room. But there was no back wall. Just open it up, and here was these rooms, and that was right out there was the rest of the world. Anyway, into one of these rooms, Prabhupada went to have his massage, and the rest of us were sitting out there, and I was cooking out on this veranda. And the thing about cooking for Prabhupada, as soon as he had his massage and he came in, he had to come and have the plate ready. Like, he didn't wait around or say, "Oh, excuse me, Srila Prabhupada, but blah, blah, blah." It's like, there it was. So there I was out on the sidewalk, and I really had to have it together. And I only had so much fuel and so much chapati dough, and, it was a tight little schedule. You're used to schedules, so you know. Anyways, he comes out. I had it ready. We all sit down. There was the brahmacharis and the sannyasis on one side, the grihasthas and their wives on the other. Just as we start to eat, woof, 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 woof. 2 dogs come, yap, yap, yap. And up went the sannyasis and a couple of brahmacharis. They were going to save us from these dogs. And up went Prabhupada. He says, "No, stop." And he took his chapati and he tore it in half, and he gave one to one dog, one to the other, and then he goes, "Hut, Jow." And they just walked away. And then he turned and said, "You never know who they are, these dogs in Vrindavan." You know, and it was really intense, because we had this sudden glimpse at the fact that we were in the holy Dham, and we were seeing dogs, but actually Prabhupada was seeing spirit souls, and we didn't know who they were. You know. And Prabhupada didn't discriminate. He didn't play with dogs. He didn't have them in his house, but he didn't kick them either. You know, he didn't mistreat any living being.
But I wanted to tell you a story about when I was in Vrindavan in 1975, 76. I was so happy I was there in that time period. It was a difficult time right then for I think for everyone really. But I was really happy because I was in Vrindavan, and it was such a goal for me to go to India, because the first group of devotees that went, I was just like so disappointed, you know. And but I'm like, okay, you know, okay. And then it was 1974, I think, or 75, and then Prabhupada was in LA, and that's when you know, Stoka Krishna went to Srila Prabhupada and said, "We want to go to India." And Prabhupada said, "Go to Vrindavan." So we went, and Stoka Krishna ended up being, you know, helping a lot with the temple management there, and doing a lot of wonderful service. And anyhow, I was just very grateful to be there. But it was very difficult sometimes to have any personal contact with Srila Prabhupada. It was like there was it's by that time he had like his army around him or something of captains and generals and all that, you know. So like and especially for me, because I was a mom. I had two little children, and so in India with two babies, you know, it was pretty tight. It's like I had to take care of things, and milk even, just to keep milk and all of those things. So. And I was used to doing a lot of service. I did Sankirtan, I did puppet shows, I did so many things in Los Angeles. So when I was there in Vrindavan, it was different, you know. I was taking care of the babies, and you couldn't even go on the altar. You couldn't go in the kitchen. You know, it was very different for me. But, like I said, I was so happy to be there, and I did parikrams and so many things that I had the time to do. And Srila Prabhupada was there. And like I say, I would go by his door and I'd see there's just no way to get in there. You know, you just forget it, you know. And so I'd go to the temple room and stuff, and we did hear lectures every day, so that was awesome. And then there was this one evening, and I was walking from Sundar Arati, and I'm walking from the temple room up in Srila Prabhupada's quarters right there, and where the guest house was at that time, where now the restaurant is. So we were walking. So I was walking that way, and I look into Prabhupada's quarters, and there's nobody there. And Srila Prabhupada's there, but nobody at the door, nobody there. And I'm like, this is my chance. This is it, you know. I'm very glad I'm like that, actually. But anyhow, I looked, and I went, oh my gosh, I'm going in there now. And so I went up, and I walked in the door, and there was only one brahmachari who was leaned up against the wall, and he was kind of covered in his chadar, and he was chanting japa. And I'm going, wow, this is so quiet. And Srila Prabhupada was just up there at his desk, and he was reading, and just there at his desk, he had his leg up, one leg up, and he was just sitting and reading and doing different things. And so I sat down in the middle of the room, and just started chanting. There's a pre-story to this, because I was in Mayapur and I just was rejected by one of the important people there. Some kind of confusion that I won't get into, but I felt rejected. Okay, just so you know, and I felt like there's just no way I could ever please Srila Prabhupada, because I'm a woman and because I have children, and I really believed that at that time, you know. That's how I was feeling, okay? And wherever any of that, okay, and we know the history of everything, so, you know. So anyhow, so I was like, okay, I felt kind of hopeless. And there I was sitting there in the room with Srila Prabhupada, and I felt that feeling. And I thought, this is the time that I can talk with Prabhupada about that. Because I don't want him, because what I had heard is that this one devotee had told me that he told Prabhupada that I was lazy. And so I was really brokenhearted, you know, that I would think that Prabhupada would think I was lazy. Not that I'm not lazy, because now I know I am. But then I didn't feel like I was lazy. And I was really angry and also felt hopeless because there was just no way, you know, that I was going to please Prabhupada or do anything right, you know, at that point. So anyhow, Srila Prabhupada was there, and I went up to his desk. I had the courage. I mustered it up. And I said to Srila Prabhupada, I just folded my hands, and Prabhupada came up and smiled. And so I knew I could speak. And I said, Srila Prabhupada, and I got out a few words, and then I just started crying completely, like, whoa! I mean, it was deep crying, like I should have been in therapy or something, you know. But Prabhupada sat there, and I was crying, Prabhupada, I'm a woman. There's no way I can please you. I'm a woman, and I have children, and they say I'm lazy now. And Srila Prabhupada, at that point, when he heard that, then I saw his arm go back, and he did this smile. It was like the universe or something. And when he did that smile, I just, oh my gosh, you know, how could he think that was a smile thing, you know? Because I was so sad. But that smile was like, he embraced me, you know, with that smile. And then he said to me, he came close and he goes, are you reading my books? That's what he said to me. Are you reading my books? And I was reading his books, because that's one thing that moms can do, okay? And when you're breastfeeding, everything is you could read books, okay? So I was reading, I was all the way up to the book that he was finished with, you know, and at that time it was probably like 7th canto, 6th canto or something, 5th canto, I don't even know. But it wasn't very much. But the thing was I read them. And so I said to Prabhupada, yes, Srila Prabhupada, I am reading your books. And he said, then you are pleasing me. Yeah. And I mean, you could imagine, and I just was so grateful, and I just felt so much love. That's why I say the unconditional love changed my life.
Another time, Prabhupada was sitting in the courtyard of the Radha Damodar temple near the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami. And this Brijbasi couple, this was in the morning after a Nectar of Devotion lecture. They came there. There were some villagers, simple Brijbasi folks, very devoted, very, very simple, very, very attracted to Prabhupada. And we sat there, and Prabhupada had this incredible exchange with them in Hindi, and we were thinking, who are these people? I mean, they're not. We were thinking they were not even initiated. They're not even devotees. They're not even in ISKCON. They're not this and they're not that. But Prabhupada spent over an hour talking to these people and laughing, and it was like he was experiencing increasing ecstasy over the course of this hour. And we could not understand Hindi. We could not understand what they were saying. And Prabhupada was laughing and talking about Krishna. You could hear about Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj and the Gopas and the Gopis and the Yamuna and this and that. And then Prabhupada was just like amazingly in total bliss. And later on I found out from another devotee, Prabhupada said that some of these people are actually liberated souls. They're very, very exalted transcendentalists, although they may look like ordinary farmers or some village people. So this was one way of Prabhupada telling us to be very respectful of the inhabitants of the Dham.
On that day I made very Bengali food and served it in a Bengali fashion, arranged on the thali in a Bengali order. And Srila Prabhupada's sleeping room is where he respected. And so he sat behind his desk, and Pishima, we gave a small chunky, she set it just directly opposite Srila Prabhupada on the floor. So as soon as I brought the thalis in and sat them down, Srila Prabhupada started making these little comical remarks about his sister. And he said, you know, she says it is water, I say it is fat. And I thought, my goodness, he's talking about her weight. What's going on? And she, as soon as Prabhupada started kind of being light in his voice, Pishima kind of started chuckling. You know, she started kind of laughing on the side. And he said, all this. And he went like this. He was flapping his arm back. He said, this is fat, he said. But she calls it water. It's not so. And then he started teasing her. He started telling her about, oh goodness, the days when in their childhood they used to fly kites. And he said, I always used to beat her at kites, he said. And back and forth, he was speaking very brother-sisterly about his little sister. So she was laughing, not understanding a word of all this. And in the course of all this kind of jesting, I was bringing the chapatis in, relays of chapatis. And when Srila Prabhupada finished his meal, I noticed that every katori, the little round bowls that all of the moist preparations that are in and serving a thali, they were now piled one on top of the other, from the largest to the smallest, nearly 12 inches high, on top of his chunky. And when I walked in the room, he took his finger like this and he knocked down the whole stack. And he said, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. And I said, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And Pishima said, Gauranitai Ki Jai. And I said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, you ate everything. He said, now this was a speech that the two of us had with each other. Srila Prabhupada and I had signals for what the quality of the prasad was. Already now things had evolved much from the very early days. And if he patted his stomach, that meant it was third class. If he went like this, second class. If he went like this, first class. This meant excellent. So he said like that, excellent. And in this way, I remember very light, sweet, jovial, humorous first meeting with Pishima, where she didn't understand a word of what was going on, but she truly loved it. She was very, very fond of Srila Prabhupada. And from that day that I met her until very last that she was with Srila Prabhupada in 1976, I was also present in Vrindavan. She worshipped him. She just worshipped her brother. And he obviously was very, very fond of her.
During the Nectar of Devotion series in Vrindavan 1972, when Prabhupada gave the Nectar of Devotion series for 1 month, there was one doubt that was plaguing me because we were putting so much effort into book distribution. But I'd always been taught when I was first joining that the parampara is like a link, a chain. And if you don't have the perfect link, if you're not initiated, you really can't go back to Godhead. And so I had this doubt that we're distributing so many books, but these people will read them, but if they're not initiated, they can't go back to Godhead. So I followed Prabhupada from back Rupa Goswami's Samadhi back into the courtyard. And just before Prabhupada took the steps up onto his courtyard, I presented this question to Prabhupada. I said, we're distributing so many books, but if people aren't initiated, then they can't go back to Godhead. And Prabhupada turned and looked at me right in the eyes, and he said, just by reading my books, they're initiated. And I thought that, another example of compassion.
Like Shainana Maharaj was in the room with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was discussing various plans, preaching plans. And then he said, so what should we do? And Akshayananda Maharaj replied, Prabhupada, we'll just have to become Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada said, another impractical suggestion. That story kind of made the rounds in Vrindavan at the time, and I just always thought that was one of the most hilarious. Oh, and you know that these are just story. For instance, that story that the devotee was saying, oh, he was the most fallen. You know this one? I'm the most fallen, Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, you're not the most anything. That's it. I mean, this devotee was lamenting, like trying to show how humble he was, and he said, Prabhupada, I'm the most fallen. And Prabhupada said, you're not the most anything. You know, it's kind of like wanting credit for being the most something. And Prabhupada said, you're not the most anything. That always struck me. But that's what I mean. It was so quick. And it was so funny. It was so sharp and very sarcastic, but you never felt offended when he did it. Even if it was at your expense, it was funny, you know. You had to admit it was really funny. And it always had an instructive edge to it. I think that was the other part that was so nice, that it was merciful. He, you know, because he was trying to help you. The false ego is such an obstacle. And he was trying to cut through that and make us try to get more in touch with reality.
After the parikrama, in the morning every day, devotees would take prasad, and then Srila Prabhupada would have darshan in his room and meet his old friends from Vrindavan, his god brothers, and so many others. And I used to just sit there all afternoon with him and just watch him talking with his old Brijbasi friends. And there was a rule that devotees were not supposed to be there, because in the afternoon the devotees were supposed to do seva, doing Harinam, Sankirtan, and other services. So I would sit there, and one day the regional manager of ISKCON for India at the time, he saw me sitting there with Srila Prabhupada. And at that time it was just Prabhupada and myself in the room. And he said to me that no devotees are allowed to sit with Prabhupada during his darshan time. And I looked at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada looked at me, and then I said to this devotee, I said, but I'm not a devotee. Then I pointed to my matted hair, and then he looked at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada smiled, and then he left, and I got to stay with Prabhupada. And I remember it was so beautiful seeing Prabhupada meet his old friends, especially Krishnadas Babaji. That was a beautiful sight. Krishnadas Babaji came to see Prabhupada. I remember actually I met him on the street and I told him that Prabhupada was here. So he said, take me. So I brought him. And while I was trying to bring him up the stairs to Prabhupada's room, one sannyasi disciple told him he wasn't allowed to come. He was actually ready to physically throw him out. I said, please ask Prabhupada if he wants to see him. And he went up and asked, and then he said, yes, he wants to see you. So he came into the room, and when Srila Prabhupada met him, Prabhupada was talking to a whole group of about 15 people. When Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj came into the room, Prabhupada's eyes just became filled with tears, and Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj's eyes became full of tears. And Prabhupada stood up, and Babaji Maharaj called out, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada practically ran to him and embraced him. And as they were embracing, they were just so affectionate. I had never seen in my entire life such affectionate and love between two people as Prabhupada was embracing his godbrother. And then Prabhupada took him with his arms around him to the seat where he would sit behind a little table. And they were both sitting together on this seat. And they had their arms around each other, and they were talking in Bengali. And as they were talking, I couldn't understand, but Prabhupada was laughing so hard. Krishnadas Babaji kept saying these things, and Prabhupada was just laughing and laughing and laughing. And every now and then they would slap each other on the legs. They were practically sitting on top of each other. And there was tears in their eyes. They were just so happy to be together, discussing transcendental subject matters. And it was amazing because all these people in the room, Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada, were completely oblivious to everyone. They were just in their own world, hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord together.
They were doing a fire jagga in, I think it was Vrindavan temple or something, some temple, Srila Prabhupada. The temple had already been established, but they were doing a fire jagga. And one of these, I think it was one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers, it was in the middle of the fire jagga, and he leaned over to Prabhupada and he said, Srila Prabhupada, they're doing it all wrong, they're doing it all wrong. And Prabhupada leaned back and he looked at him very calmly and he said, that's all right, they're just practicing.
One time in Vrindavan, he asked me what they're saying, and I said, Prabhupada, they're saying that we are parasites, that we're simply leeching off the society. And in this way, carrying on, but we're not contributing anything. And then he said, so? Stop giving. And then everyone was silent. He said, but you can't. And that's all he said, but it was very profound, and I appreciated it, the point that it's that you say we're only parasites, then we say then stop giving. But someone else is supplying us. This Kirtan movement is going on not because you're supporting us. You're benefiting by participating. The support is coming from above. Krishna's in the background. He's supplying. He's supporting.
There was a room full of Indians, visitors, in Vrindavan. And Kundali was there fanning Prabhupada with chamara. All of a sudden the door burst open and it was Vishal and Vishalini carrying these platters of Simply Wonderfuls. And at the top of his voice, he announces as he bursts into the door, Simply Wonderfuls for a Simply Wonderful spiritual master. So Prabhupada started grinning because he was often highly entertained by Vishal. So he was grinning away, and then Vishal and his wife, they went around distributing Simply Wonderfuls to everybody in the room. Then Vishal took one of Prabhupada's books off of, there's bookshelves all around the room, and he took one of the books off the shelves, opened it up, and began to glorify Prabhupada and all of his books and his writing and what a fantastic personality Prabhupada was. And then he went around and distributed books to the people in the room and got donations. And Kundali was describing that his mind was completely blown by all of this because he'd never seen anybody act like this around Prabhupada. So then he finished up his little preaching, and book distribution excursion. Prabhupada the whole time was just smiling and nodding his head. And then Vishal said to Prabhupada on his way out, he said, Prabhupada, just one thing. Yes? He said, I haven't got 7.3 yet. Srimad Bhagavatam, 7.3. I haven't got 7.3 yet. Can I borrow yours? Prabhupada said, take it. So that was one about Vishal. Another time, Vishal used to, whenever Prabhupada used to circumambulate the temple in the morning in Vrindavan, Vishal would be standing with his hands folded, chanting all these prayers from the Bhagavatam. We think that you're good, and giving the English translations. Well, on this particular morning, there was all this water because it had rained, and it was just sheeting on the temple step area, and Prabhupada just snapped at Vishal. He said, do something practical. He said, clean this up. So that was his response to the glorification. He ordered him to do some cleaning.
So I have to understand that when the temple opened, we were still very young, and there was like 5-6 people in charge of the temple, Gunanava, Sorabi, Akshayananda, Dhananjaya Prabhu, Gunanava as well, because all of a sudden, this is the first big temple Prabhupada had opened, and we're in Vrindavan, in the midst of all the smarter Brahmana and everything, so we had to do everything just so. So Prabhupada wanted us to represent him, and so they could not find fault with us and accept us, So at that time, Srila Prabhupada found out that that Balaram's plow was stolen, and it was the second time, and it was made of like silver. So Prabhupada asked at the time the head pujari, and the head pujari said, well, it was somehow, anyway, he basically said they were badmas, rascal, whoever took it, and they're really gonna, suffer for stealing Krishna singing. And Prabhupada said, yes, but you will have to suffer half the consequences, because it was under his watch, and it was his responsibility. He accepted that responsibility to that service, and by not doing it the way it should have been done, enabled him to steal a thing. So that was a pretty heavy lesson, that we have to take responsibilities.
I have another Kirtan instance where I was leading. Prabhupada was it was again in Vrindavan, Prabhupada was to lecture in Hindi. He had some Indian dignitaries coming, and there was a group. There weren't a lot of devotees around. There were some devotees, because Prabhupada's entire lecture was going to be in Hindi. That was announced. Anyway, they wanted Kirtan to be sung while Prabhupada was entering. So I was leading Kirtan, and again, Kirtan is not something that you get mental about. Kirtan comes from the heart. There's an old Sufi saying that which comes from the lips does not go past the ears. That which comes from the heart goes to the heart. So Kirtan is meant not to be mental, but I was mental about it. I was also very tired, and also trying to get used to Vrindavan and everything. So I was tired and not really focused. So I was chanting Hare Krishna, and I was thinking to myself, am I chanting good? Am I not chanting? What's going on here with the game? I was just getting really mental. But I was leading, and I was playing mridanga, because I usually played mridanga in those days. Prior to arthritis, I used to play mridanga a lot. And then Prabhupada walked in, and Prabhupada, the kirtan was going, and Prabhupada just looked right at me, and he went, like an orchestra leader, he just went, put some gusto into it. And then I saw Prabhupada with those hand motions, and then all of a sudden, totally off the mental platform, and just went into kind of a rip-roaring kirtan, renewed energy, renewed strength, and there was no mental interference.
It was the full moon night in the Sarat season. It was, I believe that's called the Rasa Purnima. So Krishna performs this Ras Leela with the gopis. So Panchadevita Maharaj came in and said, Srila Prabhupada, you want to hear the chapters of the Ras Leela? And Prabhupada said, yes, that would be nice. So Maharaj is reading and reading and reading, and everyone's like listening, and I'm looking at Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada had his eyes closed, and then I started wondering, is he listening, or is maybe he dozed off, or and after about 2 hours, you know how in the Krishna book, Prabhupada will quote different shlokas. So he made a quote, and Maharaj was reading the Sanskrit. It's like Priyamanani, right? And he said something, Priya Manani or something, whatever. He mispronounced the word. And immediately Prabhupada went, Priyamanani. And then he went back and closed his eyes. So it was like, and again, all the hairs on my body stood on end, because Prabhupada was in rapt attention. He was in samadhi. He was just absorbed in hearing the pastimes of Krishna from his own Krishna book. And so at the end, Maharaj said, Prabhupada, maybe we can do this every night. He said, yes. We're simply here to enjoy.
Krishna Kirtan Ganana Tanapano Je Anilo Premadana Koruna Prachu modana Karuna Prachu.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you for watching and listening. And I do a simple Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam at the end of one of these shows, as I did last night. And I request two devotees, or anybody, two people, to share some of the stories or one story that they remember that was meaningful to them. Maybe some new story or realization that affected you or was significant for your Krishna consciousness. So, can I see anyone's hand raised that would like to share a memory from this 1 hour Shruti Kirti? I don't know if that's fair. If no one, anyone? Okay. Okay, Shruti Kirti. Come on. You have some one of these stories that was meaningful to you, except yours, except your own. Can you come up, please, and share with the audience? Thank you. What is your name?
My name is Rimati Dasi. Rimati from Germany. Yeah, I actually never got interviewed to your videos. So, but I was in Vrindavan during 1976. So we stayed there for almost a whole year. So Srila Prabhupada came in during September, and I had a little son. His name is Raghunath, and my daughter, she was born in Vrindavan here in Loy Bazaar. And on Srila Prabhupada's Vyas Puja day. And so when Srila Prabhupada came, Bhagavad-Gita, like we were introduced to Bhagavad-Gita as being Srila Prabhupada's friend. So Bhagavad-Gita immediately had, a horoscope made and everything. Wow, she's born on Prabhupada's Vyas Puja day. So, and so he arranged for a darshan to go in Srila Prabhupada's room and, present the baby, because we hadn't named her yet. So I was with Himavati Mataji, Hansaduda Prabhu's wife. And so she took the baby and put her right into Srila Prabhupada's lap. He was sitting behind his desk, and I think he was drinking some milk. And it was really relaxed. There was just a few devotees there. And Bhagavad-Gita, so Srila Prabhupada was like holding the baby, and I was pretty worried because she wasn't wearing a diaper, it was really hot. And Srila Prabhupada raised his arms, so small, and he held her on his lap, and Himavati took my daughter's head and rubbed her head inside his lotus feet. So then Bhagavad-Gita said, we want a name for the baby. She was born on your appearance day, Srila Prabhupada. And so Srila Prabhupada looked at me and he said, Nandini. and Nandini. So, and I like right away, I was pretty young. I was 20 years old, a young mother. And then so I immediately, what does it mean? So then that really blinds my eyes. So then he said, there was so much excitement around that day with Nanda Maharaj and everything, And so that struck me so much. Here we are all excited that she was born on Vyaspuja Day, on Srila Prabhupada's appearance day, but he gave a name in relationship to Krishna and Nanda Maharaj because, one, Nandini means one who gives pleasure to the parents to Nanda Maharaj. So I just wanted to share that with you. And another occasion in Krishna Balaram Mandir, so I had my little boy, he was hardly 2 years old, not even 2 years old. So he was, Srila Prabhupada would be in his house, and in the morning, he would circumambulate the Krishna Balaram Mandir. And so my son was all dressed up and trying on all the shoes, outside Srila Prabhupada's room. And then finally, Srila Prabhupada came out to circumambulate the temple. So my son, he, pointed up, Prabhupada, and then he was walking, and Prabhupada started putting his shoes on and started walking, and the boy walked in front of Srila Prabhupada and kept on pointing back, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. So we were talking about Harikesh Maharaj, how he had some special kind of relationship with Srila Prabhupada. So he actually grabbed the boy, and said, get this kid out of here. And Srila Prabhupada said, no. This boy can walk in front of me. This boy is a very nice boy. Hare Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada was never into child abuse. He would love the children and protect them. Hare Krishna.
Even that wasn't a story that we heard. You deserve a book, please. All right, okay, we have 3 more minutes. Any gentlemen have a story they remember? Pancharatna, please come up. And Vyasaki, you have a story you want to tell? This is Vyasaki Prabhu, a great Vaishnav and Kirtan leader.
Hare Krishna. So, in one of the videos, someone mentioned that Prabhupada was going to speak in Hindi. So I was there when Srila Prabhupada said that today many Indian ladies and gentlemen have come, so I'm going to speak in Hindi. So I was thinking, I don't understand Hindi. So I got up to leave. And as I was walking out, Prabhupada said, no, come back. He said, even though you don't understand the language, the sound vibration is purifying. So I came back, sat down, and got purified by the sound vibration. So it's not the words that we're speaking, but it's allowing the sound vibration to enter into the heart. I have other. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, that's what I just...
All right, you deserve a book. All right.
Uh-oh. Oh, I forgot to add. So then Prabhupada asked for questions. Different people were asking questions. And then all of a sudden, one Indian gentleman stood up. Instead of raising his hands, he stood up. And he said, Swamiji, I can recite the entire Bhagavad-Gita by heart in 1 hour. And he kind of looked at us, Westerners. And then Prabhupada, he said, that's all right, but can you live the Bhagavad-Gita for 1 hour? And that's when I realized we have to live the Gita, not just memorize shlokas. Can you live the Gita for 1 hour? Prabhupada was a master of the one-liner.
All right, Pancharatna, that's not really the assignment that we have here in the classroom, but Pancharatna, can you tell what story you heard tonight was
dogs? The dogs. Okay. The dogs of Vrindavan. That we don't know who they are. It's something we have to learn.
Right.
And here we are in Vrindavan. Do we know who we are?
So with 1 minute left, I'd like to just say that we love souvenirs wherever we go to a festival. So I have books on the side there, the last memories book of all Prabhupada's disciples, telling their stories about his lessons and the qualities that he learned. For 500 rupees, if you get one of our books, you will get free of charge 6 videos. The 6 videos that we're going to show this week will be emailed to you. So that's the deal of the day. I think we have maybe 12 books left. So thank you for listening. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.